Hello, welcome to another 10th edition report for the channel.
How did you find out?
I'm breaking out the Thousand Suns for the first time, to try and start getting to grips with their new incarnation. I'm also going up against some scary space elves. Let's take a look at the rosters. Here's the mission info. We get Dawn of War deployment, nice and simple. Yes! But the primary mission is the ritual, which seems like a pretty weird one. No. You basically only start with one no man's land objective, in the center, and you can set up additional no man's objectives in your turn, but they have to be exactly 9 inches away from another objective. The mission rule is targets of opportunity. Here's deployment. We're playing all the terrain as ruins except for the 2 large central buildings, which will only block true line of sight. I deploy pretty spread out, and have my Termies in Deep Strike and the Vindicator and Exalted Zangors in reserve. I'm not actually worried about Magnus being targeted by the Wraith Knight, as it only has 1 Wraith cannon, and I can make its damage 0, so I start him on the board. A closer look at Craftworlds left and center. They have Rangers ranging forwards, with Wraith Guard and bikes on the left flank. The Wraith Knight is in the center. It's a cool looking Exodite take on the model. More bikes and Wraith Guard, then a wave serpent full of fire dragons. Oh, and his 2 support weapons are hidden behind ruins. I don't think anything starts off the board. I get the first turn, and here are my cards. We both go for tactical objectives, and we get 3 thanks to the targets of opportunity mission rule. I draw Bring It Down, Investigate Signals, and Assassination. Oh, and I snapped a pic of the Craftworlds Fate dice which they'll have for the battle.
Oh good God.
This is after a reroll, I think, as their first roll yielded 0 6s. Anyway, here's my movement. In the bottom left, my Exalted Sorcerer's unit heads over to the corner to try and nab some Investigate Signals points, and I'm able to move Magnus, the Mutalith, and the Forge Fiend to all target the Wave Serpent.
It's the charge, it's the bolt, it's the buzz.
It comes right down to the wire, but between all 3 of them I just about managed to destroy the Wave Serpent, and score Bring It Down.
Fuck yeah.
He gets pretty unlucky and rolls 4 1s for his 10 embarked models, but he soaks them up with both Exarchs, so still has 8 fire dragons left. Behind them, you can see the Autarch Whale Leaper who wasn't visible before. Oh, and I also use my Kabbalistic rituals to temporal surge the Exalted's unit into the bottom left corner, scoring me 2 points for Investigate Signals. I discard Assassinate as I'm not confident in scoring it, and it's on to Craftworld's turn 1. They draw no prisoners, extend battle lines, and secure no man's land. Here's movement, and he surges forward with most of his army. I don't think his Wraith Guard are quite able to get in range of anything yet, though. Here's a better shot of the unique-looking Wraith Knight strutting to the center of the battlefield. He has his Rangers and Fire Dragons positioned centrally, too. In shooting, on the left flank 3 Windriders target the Exalted's unit with their Shuriken cannons and absolutely rip through them, leaving just 1 Rubric Marine left alive.
Gotta be kidding me.
Here's where I learned that Windriders can now randomly all have a Shuriken cannon, whereas it was only 1 per unit in 9th. Well, guess I'll be spending my weekend assembling some Windriders for my own Craftworlds army.
There it is. You went and said it. I just came right the fuck out and said it.
Elsewhere, I get extremely lucky, as he targets the Mutalith with the Wraith Knight, and puts 4d6 mortal wounds on it, but thanks to its Feel No Pain save it survives on 1 wound. Finally, his Rangers lay down a new objective in no man's land, ready to start scoring in turn 2. I just don't think I had a way of doing that in my turn 1, without sacrificing too much shooting. So in turn 1, he scores extend battle lines and secure no man's land, making it 10-5 to Eldar. My turn 2 cards are extend battle lines, teleport Homer, and no prisoners. Here's my movement. I really need to get rid of the central Wraith Guard holding the objective, and I figure a bucketload of devastating wounds are my best bet. So I bring in my 10-man Termy blob ready to target them.
These are my boys and they're always with me.
The reason I've placed them so far back is that I don't want the Wraith Guard to be able to fire back at them, but in hindsight I think I put way too much stock into that. I should have been much more aggressive with them. Next to them, the Vindicator comes on, ready to target the Wraith Knight. The model is actually my old favorite laser destroyer, but I'm using it as a regular Vindicator. Oh, and lest we forget, I didn't get a good picture, but you can see Magnus has flown up in the top right corner of the picture, ready to start gobbling up some infantry. Shooting goes pretty well, as the Termies make short work of the Wraith Guard by making their bolters psychic, then re-rolling all hits and wounds, and fishing for sixes with devastating wounds. I can't quite remember, but I feel like the Forge Fiend may also have shot them, and got shot back? 'Cause it's now lost some wounds. Which means I left it within 18 inches of them or something. Like, what the fuck? Why would I not have moved it out of their range? Fuck knows.
Nothing means anything to you, does it?
Ooh, this is also a good pick because it's the only one where you can just about see that I brought in my Exalted Zangors in the top left corner, to score deploy teleport Homer. Finally, Magnus charges in and deletes one unit of fire dragons. I had hoped to consolidate onto the objective and steal it, but I can't quite make it. Dang, I should have put some shooting into the Rangers to stop them scoring primaries in their turn too. Anyway, although I scored no primaries this turn, I do get 10 points for my secondaries. Craftworlds turn 2 cards are No Prisoners, Bring It Down, and Investigate Signals. Here's movement. The remaining Wraith Guard on the left continue to plod forwards, as the Wraith Knight retreats away from Magnus.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
The other unit of fire dragons heads for Magnus as well, and at the top of the picture you can see Eldrad, who now dooms Magnus, which means the fire dragons will be wounding him on 4s instead of 5s.
Oh shit!
Also, the Farseer, who's on the other side of the table, puts Fortune onto the Wraith Knight, giving it -1 to be wounded.
Oh shit!
In shooting, one unit of Windriders finishes off the Exalted's unit along with the Exalted himself, and the other unit wipes out the 3 Zangor Enlightened from his backfield. Then, the Fire Dragons do an absolute number on Magnus, and take him down from full health to 2 wounds remaining.
What the fuck?
I think I do turn one of their shots to damage 0, at least I presume I do, but it hardly matters. The Wraith Knight then just has to do a measly 2 wounds to finish him off. Well, it does get a devastating wound through, and funnily enough rolls Snake Eyes, just about getting the job done. Then, in a surge of malicious chaotic energy, Magnus explodes, and wipes out all of the fire dragons and 4 of the 5 rangers, though. Finally, Mutilith dies to some stray shots, probably from rangers. It might have been that last ranger, actually. So, Craftworlds do pretty well this turn, scoring 9 for secondaries, and 5 for primaries. My turn 3. I bring my 5-man Termi unit down near the center. My 10-man unit moves to be able to target the Wraith Guard on the left, but he then phantasms them back out of sight.
You cowards!
The 5-man unit then lays an egg, creates a new objective, near the Vindicator, which has moved up to target the Wraith Knight. Oh, I think they've lost a model due to getting overwatched by a D-cannon or something. Oh again, I don't seem to have a picture of my cards for this turn. I have a note that I scored 10 for secondaries this turn though. In the rest of the turn I basically just killed that last ranger in the center, and only managed to put 2 more wounds onto the Wraith Knight. Craftworlds turn 3 cards are Assassination, Area Denial, and Investigate Signals. No primaries this turn. They surge forwards once more, with Eldrad and the Wraith Knight each taking a no man's objective, and the Wraith Guard coming out of hiding. Both units of Windriders dart into a corner to score Investigate Signals. Shooting then sees 3 more Central Termies slain, leaving 1 left, and the Vindicator gets destroyed with trivial ease by the Wraith Guard.
It shocked the fuck out of me.
They get 9 for their secondaries, then, as they score Area Denial and 2 lots of signals. At the end of battle round 3, Craftworlds are in the lead, 33-25. My turn 4. Think we'll slightly overshoot 10 minutes on this one guys. My cards are Engage, Overwhelming Force, and Cleanse. I move up and stake my claim on 2 objectives, then, the big Termi blob does its fishing for 6s with devastating wounds nonsense again, and finishes off the Wraith Knight.
Yes! Hell yeah!
The Forge Fiend targets the Wraith Guard, and gets 6 hits, needing 3+ to wound. Here's its wound roll.
I'm sick of this shit.
Just 3 points this turn for secondaries, then, from Overwhelming Force. No primaries yet again. Maybe next turn. Craftworlds turn 4 cards are Assassination, Storm Hostile, and Capture Enemy Outpost. Here's movement, and basically, the Wraithguard target the Forge Fiend but leave it on 1 wound, and the remaining Rangers manage to snipe out Airmen, scoring Assassinate. Along with 5 primary points, Craftworlds increase their lead, now leading 43 to 28. My turn 5 cards are Storm Hostile, Attempting Target, and I still have Cleanse. Here's movement. The rubrics on the right cleanse their objective, as it's more reliable than trying to storm Eldrad's objective. The Termies move up, and the Rangers in the center try to run away with their special rule, but only roll a 1. However, they then just phantasm away anyway. Dang it. Frustrated, the Termies have nothing to do except to vent their rage on the Wraithguard.
Nothing to do with all your strength.
And delete them all. I do score 10 for primaries and 5 for cleanse this turn, though, so that's not so bad. In their final turn, Craftworlds still have Storm Hostile and Capture Enemy Outpost, and their new card is Overwhelming Force. Scoring 10 for primaries, we work out that they can easily score all 3 secondaries, which they do by finishing off the Forge Fiend and then phantasming a unit of Windriders onto my home objective. That's a big 15 for secondaries, and 25 points total in the final turn alone. So, the scores. In the end, Craftworlds wins 70 points to 56. At the time I wrote down a bigger lead for Craftworlds, with 78 points, but on making this report I've realized that secondaries capped out at 40, which means some of their secondaries points don't count. Anyway, a good learning experience with the Dusty Boys, and great to see what the Space Elves can do now too. I have a bunch of Wraith stuff myself and it was a bit underwhelming in 9th, so I'm glad to see that it's actually good in-game now. One massive thing that I didn't really get to mention was the Autarch Whale Leaper giving an extra CP every turn. That's convinced me to get mine painted up along with the Windriders which I mentioned earlier. In terms of 10th itself, I'm tentatively enjoying it, although I've found that the actual mission rules themselves seem to be a bit unnecessarily weird. Last game was ping pong with the central objectives, and this time you had to set your own ones up. I have a feeling that after playing each mission a few times I'll appreciate the variety a bit more, instead of just trying to work out how to avoid screwing up the tactics completely. Anyway, we're already well over time, so I'll draw the waffle to a close. Thanks to my opponent for the great game, and thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next report.